Hey, welcome back. We have some pens here. I'm excited to check these out. Magnus came out with a new milling style that everyone's going pretty crazy about. Not everyone, of course, but some of us pen nerds. And I got a couple of those to check out here. So just making sure there's no private info there. Nope, just a nice little note as usual. And some info on the pens, and let's get into them and see what we think to compare in person to what the pictures look like. You never know when you actually get it in person if it will be as stunning or less impressive or more impressive. That is why a bunch of YouTubers do videos about stuff like this. All right, let's see what we think. This is from the Pen Lab. Magnus has been dropping some customs. Oh, that is really nice. So he's done some skeletonized pens. Oh my gosh, that is so light. That's crazy. Is that thing? Oh my God, look how easy it is to bend. Wow, that is really a fragile design. That's impressive. All right, and this is my first time getting to check out the V4 mechanism. And man, that spring is much stronger than before. I got to check this out and see what he did to make that thing so much stronger, because that is totally different than the feeling of this one. Now, this one actually has a modified spring in it. So I'd have to throw this spring in here to do a real direct comparison. Let's try that just for fun, because this new spring is way stiffer than his older one. So let me do an apples to apples comparison, because I really want to see what I think of this new mech. He has totally redone the internals here. Oh my gosh, that is insanely smooth. That's one of the smoothest mechs I've ever felt. Now that I get less pressure on it, it is really impressive. Wow. Okay. So the milling does not disappoint. You can kind of see the anodization is on the inside, and then he polishes it. So you can only see it here, where there's no full. I wonder why. I guess this here is probably here because of the break point. I was wondering why that was solid there. Yeah, it's solid because the threading. It'd be nice if you could do this whole thing in one piece so that it didn't have threading like right in the middle there. That would totally take this to the next level. That'd be crazy looking. If you could do away with that section right there. Wow. And then you can see the milling, sorry, bad focus there. You can see the milling on the inside there. Let me grab a flashlight and just try and get you a slightly better look at this. Okay, so I'm going to go in with a very light, not too bright here. And then let me zoom in. See if I can get a little light in there for you. So you can really see the inside there is where that anodized finish is. So it gives it a very interesting kind of illusion. Very cool. Let's grab the next one. It is a similar build, but with a blue ano. I just couldn't decide between the two, and figured grab one, let the other one go back to the community if I decided I didn't want both, which that's what I usually do. When I have an opportunity and I'm having trouble deciding, I'll just grab two, give one back to the community for my cost. Everyone wins because we split the cost of shipping. Okay, and then this is another Pen Lab. And this one is a dark blue anodized double helix. That's pretty impressive in person also. Wow, that is sweet. Because that ano shows up a bit more. That gives it a crazy illusion. That is really nice looking. Wow. That's really cool. Consistent on the mech. They both feel great. with the really strong spring, one of the effects you have when it hits the detent here is it gets kind of hard to, it's not hard, but it's a little harder to undo, which is good because then it won't like happen on purpose. But yeah, very interesting. Still a little bit of that Magnus tip wiggle. Luckily, a friend of mine happens to have sent me something for that. So this is opportune timing to unbox this as well. Let me just make sure nothing, yep. Hey, Pocket Priorities, these O-rings will make your Magnus V3, oh, ridiculous. Slip 3 or 4 of these rings on the tip of the Parker refill. Boom. And there's the ring, rubber O-rings. I can try and get you a link to this if I can get it from him in the description. Try not to cut myself here. Eliminates rattle and even tightens up any wiggle. Enjoy. Let's try it. Thank you, my friend Durning. Durning, who we'll call him, is one of the foremost collectors. I met him on Reddit a while back. And man, he knows collecting. It is pretty remarkable. He had an insane knife collection. He now has, in very short order, an insane pen collection. He's very good at this. I think it goes this way. All right, let's try this on here. So he said, add it to the tip of the Parker refill. Okay, wonder which part of the tip that means. If it's this part or that part. Get a couple of these out. Make a nice little mess here. I mean, it can't be this part because that would need to go through. So it must be this part back here, right? Let's see, because how does that? So is it after the spring is on? It must be after the spring is on, or maybe he's using an aftermarket spring. Okay, let's try. I said 3 or 4 of these. Let's just go with 4 for safe measure. Give it a try. Okay. Sorry, I know it's a little chaos on the desk here now. Is it a difference? I don't know. I may not be using them right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a big difference. And just to be scientific about it, let's do the same thing on this one and see if we get the same effect or if, you know, there's some variance or whatever. Two, 3, and 4. My gut is you probably want that as far forward as possible, and then it will push them back as needed when you deploy, is my guess, but let's find out. I did this one a little different than the prior one. Yeah, so that was a little hard, and now they're kind of pushed back, and wow, yeah, like no tip wiggle now. Very nice. Well, let's try that on this one as well. We're on a roll. This one, let's see. probably doesn't matter as much. I don't know if it'll work with this spring or if it only works with the factory springs. We'll find out. Okay. Now we'll get a real feel of this, because this is a pen that I've been using, so I really know how this one feels. Okay, yeah, that first couple pulls, it like pushes the bands back into place. So if I were to open this back up, you'll probably see them shifted a little bit. Yeah, they're way back there now. So they're all the way back to here now. And yeah, let me grab a pad of paper if I can find one here and write with it a little bit. Where did I put it? Oh, it's over here. All right. Sorry, getting a little distracted here from these other beautiful Magnus pens, but let's see what we think. Wow. Yeah. That does feel a lot better. Cool. Durning, thank you for that. Magnus, two amazingly cool pens. Let's do a quick weigh-in to compare, and then I'm gonna check out the mechs, and if you stick in that long, this is gonna be a bit of a longer video than usual. Good for you for having some patience. 0.93 versus, holy smokes, 0.685, so very similar in weight to the Skelly. 0.685, that is a ton of material that has been taken out of there. Sorry for the dustiness here. I just repainted my wall. I was just thinking as I started this, wow, how nice it is to be in a room with properly painted walls. That hadn't been done since I moved in here 9 years ago. All right, so we've got serial number 233214. We've got this guy, and what we're going to do is compare the mechanisms, but I want to make sure I don't mess anything up here. So let's get all of this over here. I want to minimize what's on here. Get this over here. And we're going to take a look at the difference between V3 and V4 mech. So this is a V3. I could go into V2 also, I guess, but let's keep it simple for now because this is really the more recent variants. So V3, the big thing was this all of the mechanism components sat in the titanium body itself. And Magnus has determined through his research that a big part of the scratchiness on the initial shipping of the V3s, and they do smooth out because this is steel, but it's due to the titanium body, which is known for not being the smoothest thing for metal on metal. So you got parts that fit directly into the titanium body. Now let's compare the V4. See if I can avoid mixing parts up here. Oh, that is very different. So the first part is very different right off the bat. Wow, you can see a lot of the blue now, by the way. That's really cool. You can see the inside blued parts more so when this is out than when it's in. Huh, does this not come out now? This might not come out now without, I've heard something about you have to like take the pocket clip off or something. So I might need to, I might not be able to get this out, which would actually be great because I do find it a pain in the butt when all this stuff falls out and you got to try and get it all back in correctly. This would be a nice upgrade for this not to just fall right out. And it does seem to be the case. I had read that on Reddit, and yeah, I don't. So now there is a sleeve inside of there. Let me see if I can zoom in enough that you can see it. You can see that sleeve inside of there. Sorry, let me let the light go in there. And everything sits inside of that sleeve, whereas on the old versions, there was no sleeve. It just, let me see if I can get some light in there again. It's a little tricky to get light in there, and I'm sorry, my finger's all jacked up from working on my house. I did some demo last week too. Yeah, anyways, big difference there. None more obvious than, look at this. That is totally different on these are like the last pieces that basically push the refill up and down. Totally different design there. Huh, I wonder why he's doing these dimples here. I wonder if that's for smoothness or weight or what, but that's very different. Cool. Maybe just so people know the difference on what they're getting when they buy the pens or something. I don't know. I wonder what drove him to have that extra milling in there. Super interesting. So yeah, these mechs are definitely different in a good way. I'm really like what I'm seeing with the V4. They're shipping very smooth. And see if I can get this back in here. I think these are the same on both sides. So this should be very easy to reassemble this one. And you'll compare the difference here of my reassembly process, and I think it'll speak volumes for anyone that's made it 16 minutes into the video. Boom, done. No second guessing, super easy. Okay, now this one, I gotta figure out what goes in first. So I think it's this, and I think it goes this way. And then not only what goes in second here, but what direction does this go? So I think I have to put it in this way. Okay, and I don't know if that's correct or not, so now I gotta drop this in and try it and see if it works or not. It seems like it's going to. I can put some pressure on it here and double check. Yep, I got it right. So first try, luckily this time. So the time won't seem very different, but sometimes, you know, I don't remember which side I need to put that on. And so I'll drop it in there, I have to like rearrange it. It's hard to drop it in the correct direction anyways, because it has to travel all the way up here. So got lucky that time. So yeah, V4 checks out. Really excited about the V4. Really impressed with the stronger spring in here. Not everyone will like that, and you can get some springs. I've done some videos on spring options. And then, boy, these washers really worked. Really stiffened up the tip wiggle issue. So that's impressive as well. I think this pen is becoming what I always hoped it would, which is top 3. It's top 3 pen for me. You know, you get the tip wiggle taken care of, and that's in the action and the spring where you want it to be. These are about as good as they get in terms of the finish, the feel in the hand. I don't think everyone will love writing with this Helix. The double Helix is definitely, and sorry, there's a, oh, that popped right off there. Yeah, that's definitely abrasive on the hand is the one thing about the Helix, but it is a beautiful pen. And I kind of have pens in different categories. I have pens that I actually want to write with. I have pens that I collect because they're extraordinary, and then I have pens that I sell. This is one I'm collecting because it's just an extraordinary demonstration of build. Interesting how flexible that is, though. You do not feel that on a normal one. That is quite a lot of milling out of there. Now it's making me wonder if that's the case on the Skelly. Let me grab a Skelly. I think I have one handy here. See if I can find it really quickly. Oh, I'll use the magic of show business. I was able to save you at least 45 seconds there of me looking around through my drawer for my Skelly pen. So I'm really curious if this one does not have that flexibility. This design is definitely much stronger. So that's interesting. I'm going to just pull this out, and I'll tell you a big part of why the gold to me is that I've not been able to get the natural titanium on either of these builds. So the gold's kind of the next closest for me, where it's very subtle on the anodization. And if it were to wear out, you wouldn't really notice it. But yeah, having the 2 golds, that's pretty sweet. So I'm very excited about this, and this is worth a weigh-in also. We should weigh these in and compare. And let me get all this dust from the demo in this room out of here. I had to demo some floors, tile floor, and it covered everything in dust, unfortunately. So we had shown this was 0.685. Wow, exactly the same. That's crazy. But obviously the rigidity on that one is very different. This thing has no rigidity issues, if you want to call them an issue. I don't know if it actually manifests itself in some sort of problem, but maybe if you were like fall with a pen in your pocket or something, that one could be an issue. This could definitely bend and like deform. So that is something to consider, I guess, if you were to want to use that as a user. I personally will not use that as a user. To me, that's just a example of extraordinary design and milling and stuff. But if you wanted that as a user, you might want to consider going with something like this or one of his other milling designs. So food for thought. All right, very good day in the pen world. Finally got some of these double helixes in, and the V4. Finally got to check out the V4. So all good stuff. If you enjoyed, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.